Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 197th Ocean Forum, the Arctic Sea and Asia. What are the challenges for China-Japan-Korea cooperation? Thank you very much indeed for your joining us this afternoon. This program is conducted in person as well as with YouTube live streaming, and the captioned video is also distributed simultaneously. Please access through the link at the bottom on your screen. Dr. Hide Sakaguchi, Ocean Policy Research Institute, the president, is giving you an opening remark at the beginning.
Yes. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your joining us this afternoon at the Ocean Forum. As has been introduced, my name is Hide Sakaguchi, the president of Ocean Policy Research Institute of Sasakawa Peace Foundation. We are very pleased to welcome you today. As you can see today, we focus on Arctic sea route, and particularly from the perspective of how we can cooperate amongst Japan, China, Korea for better utilization of that route. These days, as you may be fully aware of through media reports on the internet and on TV, the world has been seeing a very unstable situation. 2 years ago, the Ukrainian problem started, and in the Red Sea, where the Suez Canal is connected, there have been attacks on commercial shipping, and resource-poor Asian nations, particularly Japan, China, Korea, have been dependent on the shipping for most of the resources they consume, but the shipping and ocean routes themselves are under severe pressure and instability, as you are fully aware of. And before the Suez route was open, the Cape of Hope, of the African continent, was the important sea route, and some shipping companies are forced to choose to go back to that route. So excessive use of CO2 and the emission of the greenhouse gas to the atmosphere are now important, the very severe problem. So we need to how we can strike a balance between these two is another problem. So the distance between Europe and Asia can be reduced to 2/3. That is, the fuel consumption can be reduced to 2/3. So linking Europe and East Asia has been regarded as the more economically and effectively linked through the Northern Sea Route, and Sasakawa Peace Foundation is the first organization in Asia which explored this dream possibility in the early 1990s. The route, linking Yokohama and Kirkenes in Norway, was navigated by the Russian cargo ship, the Kandalaksha, with the very courageous initiative taken by Mr. Sasakawa, the chairman of the Nippon Foundation. And that opened up increased the momentum of utilizing the Northern Sea routes in Asia as a whole. We are very pleased to have the two experts from Norway today. The experts on the Arctic area, and we have the Professor Hon from Korea and Professor Chen online, and Professor Otsuka, the expert on the Arctic research, is also with us today, who is from Hokkaido University. So using the Northern Sea Route is a dream for the whole humanity. And as we might hear from the Professor Chen, this year, a year ago, and 2 years ago as well, China has been increasingly using Northern Sea Route for cargo transport, including LNG. Of course, the political or geopolitical the challenges are ahead of us for us to further utilize the Northern Sea Route, but that doesn't mean that we can put aside this important sea route. That is why we have decided to hold this forum today in order to discuss the challenges and what we can do and should do in order to overcome these challenges with experts and the inputs from you as well. Of course, you may disagree depending on the position on the you take or the situation you are in your own countries. So we'd like to discuss with us, amongst us, together with the, in order for us to identify what we can and should do for the entire global international community. And I hope that you will take up what we have learned and heard from you to your communities, to your school and the workplaces, so that the further discussions they would be stimulated in order for us to come up with the solution for the interest of the entire humanity. Thank you very much.
Sakaguchi 所長ありがとうございました。それでは
Thank you very much, Mr. Sakaguchi. As was just introduced, we have a pleasure of having the keynote speaker from the Nansen Institute, Professor Mo, with us. He is going to be with us during the panel discussion as well, so that if you have questions, either you can send your question through the online, as well as you can also write down questions on the sheet that you have just received. Now, over to you, Professor Mo.
Good afternoon, everybody. Very nice to be here at the Sasakawa Peace Foundation again. I think Dr. Samaguchi already laid out some of the important features of Arctic shipping, the attractiveness of using the Arctic as an international route, namely the shorter distance. So I don't need to go into that. What I will do is to bring in some perspectives on the recent developments in Arctic shipping, namely on the Northern Sea Route. When we talk about Arctic shipping, there are mainly two historically big routes. It is the Northwest Passage, which goes through the archipelago in the northern part of Canada, as you see on the left here, and it's the Northeast Passage. That is the historical term for the passage between the Atlantic and the Pacific. The Northern Sea Route is a section of the Northeast Passage. it's important to understand that there are some differences in these concepts. So the Northern Sea Route is a part of the Northeast Passage. It's the dotted line on the right. I would also like to say that there have been other names coming up recently, notably from Russia. You see that red line, that is something which has some support in Russia. That's an attempt to extend the Northern Sea Route into something called the Northern Maritime Corridor, running from Murmansk over to Kamchatka. Longer route, which makes some sense in sort of navigational terms. But I'd like to point this out in case you hear these different names, which really describe slightly different routes. And there's even been a new name promoted by the Russian icebreaker company, Atomflot, called the Big Northern Sea Route, as a long route all the way from the Baltic Sea all the way to Vladivostok. These are not official names, but they come cropping up. And I think it is important that we know the differences here in case you come across such concepts. But I will talk about the Northern Sea Route, which is an area, not only a route, it's an area defined in Russian law. It's the area between the Novaya Zemlya island and the Bering Strait, out to 200 nautical miles from shore, the Russian exclusive economic zone. So it's an area, this Northern Sea Route area. And this area is administered according to rules set by Russia. And what is happening on the Northern Sea Route is very much dependent on Russian policies. So that's my first point. If we are talking about Arctic shipping now, at least in the relatively near future, we are talking about the Northern Sea Route. And if we are talking about the Northern Sea Route, we have to understand that this is something that is very much dependent on Russia. We cannot sort of isolate the sea route from Russia. So, what has been going on the Northern Sea Route? We can distinguish between two different forms of international use of the Northern Sea Route. We have what we call destinational shipping. That is shipments into the sea route area or out, typically bringing in machinery, equipment, materials, typically taking out resources. That's called destinational shipping. And then we have transit shipping, and that is perhaps what is most interesting for this audience and in the sort of China, Japan, Korea context. International transits are defined as navigation between ports outside Russia, either from the Pacific to the Atlantic or from the Atlantic to the Pacific. So the Northern Sea Route was developed as a commercial or as a navigational alternative by the Russians, but they used it mainly for internal purposes. Only from the 1990s was there any international use of the Northern Sea Route. And in fact, it was very, very little. So we can in fact pinpoint the modern use of the Northern Sea Route to 2010. That's when Russia became interested in attracting foreign users of the sea route. And many had expectations of a rapid growth in international transits, not least in Asia, but also in Russia. So what happened in the years since international use of the sea route started? This graph shows the two main uses of the sea route, destinational shipping and transit. And as you can see, there's a big discrepancy. First years, very little happened on both accounts, but then destinational shipping took off. And that was connected with development of big resource extraction projects in Siberia, both oil and later liquefied natural gas. Big pieces of equipment brought in with heavyweight vessels from Asia. I think this is a Chinese vessel bringing in equipment from Korea. So that was the start, 2013, 14, 15. But then these projects started to produce, especially the LNG projects came on stream in late 2017, Yamal LNG, Yamal liquefied natural gas, and is responsible for the rapid growth in volumes since then. So international transits did not really take off. And I think it's very important to understand the many reasons why this did not happen. The conditions, attractiveness, commercial attractiveness was not sufficient to have ship owners and cargo owners select this route. There was an increase last year, but we have to understand that this had very much to do with the special circumstances, given the intense international situation and sanctions against Russia. Quite big volume, 1.5 million tons of oil was transported from the west to Asia, from the Baltic Sea and from terminals in the Barents Sea through the Northern Sea route, because Russian oil cannot be transported on Western insured vessels to Western markets, so it has to go to Asia. And in that situation, using the Northern Sea route was a good option for the Russian oil companies. But it was not a very good option in commercial terms, since it is a very long way to transport oil from the Baltic Sea, for instance, over to Asia. But that explains a bit of the increase that took place last year in transits. So that is the overall picture of what has happened until now. What about ice? This is the ice situation in late August last year. And I think it's sort of easy to understand. The blue ocean is, of course, ice-free, open ocean. And that is one of the better periods a year. In fact, last year, there was some ice, but thin ice in some of the straits along the Northern Sea route. Not very difficult to pass through. If we turn now to end of January this year, the situation looks quite different. Although this is not the heaviest ice situation, it's usually a little later, now into March, and April. The picture is very different, with a lot of ice. Most of the area east of the Novaya Zemlya island. The point here is that in Russia, it was decided not that many years ago that using the Northern Sea route all year round was feasible. It was feasible because the specially designed carriers for natural gas built in Korea for the Yamal LNG project proved to be very good in ice, and also because Russia decided to increase or speed up the production of new icebreakers. So it was decided that it was possible to use the Northern Sea route all year round. This expansion of icebreakers can be seen in this figure. It shows sort of the whole story of Russian nuclear icebreakers from the very start in 1960 until today. And you see the gray lines, that's the lifetime of the icebreakers, which have now been decommissioned. They have a sort of a certain lifespan, they can be used. And then you have the red ones, which are currently in use. And you have the dark blue ones, which are under construction. A very expansive program for increasing the number and the quality of icebreakers. As I said, this program was related to two facts, both the possibility of using the icebreakers in wintertime to go through the Northern Sea route, but also because of the big expansion of production of minerals, raw materials, energy in the Arctic, which needs to be exported out. And the very expansive icebreaker program corresponded with a very optimistic or expansive program for increasing production, especially of liquefied natural gas, but also of oil. So the idea has been that given these big industrial projects, it will be possible to finance icebreakers and infrastructure and will build up sort of a service that would attract international transits later. So the idea was that destination shipping would have to come to a certain level, and then they would have provided a service year-round on the sea route that would attract international transits. So the whole model of expanding the use of the sea route is dependent on these extractive projects. And it has also been assumed in Russia that the route would only be really interesting for international transit if it can be used the whole year round. So this, you see there is a link here between extraction projects, icebreaking, and international transits. Now, what about the assumptions here? What about the basis assumption that there will be a huge increase of production, especially of hydrocarbons, but also of other minerals in the Russian Arctic? As I said, they have been very optimistic about such production. And this graph shows the increase that has been sort of the official expectations. The numbers to the left is, of course, the real level in 2023. And then you have the sort of scenarios or expectations, which are very aggressive or very rapid speeding up. But these are the numbers, these red and blue columns are the numbers that have been steering Russian policy and have been the assumptions behind the icebreaker program. Now we see very recently that even officially, although not published, but it has been reported in respectable papers, that there is a reassessment going on because of the new situation and because of the sanctions. So the gray column is the so-called conservative scenario, which reportedly has been produced by the Russian Ministry for the Far East and the Arctic. And it begs the question now, will the sanctions imposed on Russia, which is hitting the raw material production in the Arctic quite hard, will it also indirectly break the financial model for NSR? Because according to what I just said, the model is based on a very rapid increase in production of oil and gas in the Arctic. And if that doesn't happen, the financial situation for the whole Northern Sea Route expansion is very, very seriously affected. And one may even argue that we may come to a point where there will be an oversupply of icebreakers. Because if you remember the slide I showed you about icebreakers, they very much has already been done, and several icebreakers are in production. So if they are not stopped, there will be a quite good situation with icebreakers in a few years' time. The question is, will they be needed if the cargo scenario is much more pessimistic? Just a few words about the actual conditions for navigation on the NSR. These are in short, the rules that apply to international users. And there has been a lot of sort of talk about that, and some countries have protested against the Russian regime for the Northern Sea route, arguing that it is too extensive and it doesn't fit with international law. I will not go into the legal part of it, but I will say in practical terms, the Russian regime has not created very big problems, and it doesn't need to do that if there is an or a general willingness on behalf of Russian authorities to let foreign ships use the sea route. It can be well accommodated within the rules set. However, it's not only the rules, but also the policy that is important. And I think we could say that starting from 2018, there has been a certain protectionist trend in Russian policies, which has been reflected in rules giving a monopoly to Russian vessels to transport oil and gas out of the region, some other measures, which is not so attractive seen from the point of view of international shipping industry. The most recent development is in the face of the tense international situation that you have voices in Russia arguing that control of the sea route should be strengthened, should be stricter control with foreign vessels for security reasons. So there is an internal discussion about that. No rules have been changed so far, but there are those who argue that the Northern Sea route is a strategically important area for Russia and that controls should be increased, which probably would make international users more skeptical about using the sea route. And I think it's also right to say here that there are those who argue that transits are not really going to be very profitable for Russia. The interesting thing in economic terms is the destinational shipping. Transits, well, transits will not pay that much to go through the Arctic. And so the argument is it really so important to work for international transits? Shouldn't we just continue expanding destinational shipping? Well, now destinational shipping has its own problems, but I think one should be aware of this discussion also in Russia, even if the official line still is that transit will come and then they will blossom later. Very few more remarks at the end. We will pick up much more in the discussion, I think. But seen from China, Japan, and Korea, who are all invested in Arctic shipping in different ways, there are so many questions that need to be discussed and understood. And I think always when we talk about Arctic shipping, we need to go back to the economic fundamentals. What is the cargo base? What is the kind of cargo that could profitably be sent through the Arctic? And that is a very sort of big question, which needs very specific commercial expertise to answer. I think also shipping industry will also have to think about what is the merit or extra expense, in other words, to use it on a year-round basis in terms of extra ice-strengthened vessels, extra costs, rather than just focusing on the more or less ice-free season. These are sort of fundamental issues that has to be with business strategies. And the same is, of course, the kind of markets. And that also goes back to the cargo question. Are there specific markets, specific cargoes that have a potential on the Northern Sea route? I think we have to always go back to the business basis, the sort of the business case, if we are going to say something about the realism of increased shipping in the Arctic. But then, in the present situation, and I believe, unfortunately, that situation will last for some time, we cannot disregard the situation that has emerged due to Russia's attack on Ukraine and the ongoing war and hostilities. And in this situation, any user who are contemplating the Northern Sea route must also think about the relationship to Russian authorities and stakeholders involved or supporting the war. Finally, my last word is that I think we need to think about in different timescales. Short term, a lot of problems can be seen because of the international situation. But we have to look also in the longer term, and that may be a different story. And in the longer term also, the ice situation could permit sailings a little bit further north, which may simplify the relationship with Russia, in fact. But these are just some issues. We can pick up more of them. A lot of other things, of technical, but also legal matters, have to be considered. And joint research and cooperation between China, Japan, and Korea, I think, is a very good thing in this regard. Thank you.
モー教授、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Professor Mo. Now we'd like to move on to a panel discussion. As a panelist, we have with us Professor Otsuka of Hokkaido University, and Professor Fan Chan at the University of Jinan, Professor Stockbeck of Nord University, and Professor Sun Won Hon of Yonsei University. And the panel discussion is going to be moderated by Dr. Sakaguchi. If you have questions or comments, please refer to this QR code. You can also refer to the QR code that is printed on the back of the leaflet that you have received if you are in this room, and then use that for uploading your questions. Now over to you, Dr. Sakaguchi.
Thank you very much, Professor Mo. Your really comprehensive and understandable, very nice keynote speech we are given. Thank you very much again. So from now on, as was introduced, we are going to get into the panel discussion session. And first of all, I would like to all the panelists to give your self-introduction together with some your own expertise to let all the audience know yourself in short minutes. So I will skip Professor Mo already. Introduce yourself. So Professor Otsuka from Hokkaido University, could you please give your self-introduction?
Thank you very much, Sakaguchi-san. So my name is Natsuhiko Otsuka from Hokkaido University Arctic Research Center. And my research background is the coastal engineering. But since 1990s, when the Ocean Policy Research Foundation started the world first research activities of the Arctic Sea route, I started research work regarding the Arctic shipping issues. And my main interest is to find what could be the feasible business scenarios of this Arctic shipping. So in terms of the shipping cost or safety, navigation, and engineering point of view as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And as we are missing in this auditorium, we have one more panelist from China, Professor Fen Chen, the visiting professor, Iceland Research Center, University of Jinan. Professor Chen, could you introduce yourself? Your voice is missing. Could you please unmute?
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we can clearly hear. Thank you very much for attending this panel discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Sasakawa. Now, voice is fine for you?
Yes, perfectly all right.
All right. All right. My name is Feng Chen. I once worked for Costco Shipping many years. Then I involved in the Arctic shipping service from 2012 when the Chinese research vessel visiting Iceland. Then I was involved in Arctic shipping practice for about 10 years. From 2018, I was invited and nominated to be visiting professor research by University of Jinan, China, until today. I'm pleased to join today's conference meeting, and will be pleasure to listen the presentation by all of specialists of Arctic shipping. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chen. And now I'm going to move on to Professor Songwon Hong. He's a professor and director, Institute of Arctic Logistics, Yonsun University, Korea. Professor Hong, could you please make your self-introduction?
Hello, I'm Professor Hong. Thank you for the opportunity to join today's discussion. I'm director of Institute of Arctic Logistics, Yongsan University, Busan, Korea. So I did study in Moscow a long time ago, right after collapse of the Soviet Union, and I studied in Rotterdam a long time ago. So my educational background, international economics and maritime logistics. In 2010, so at the time I had a chance to make a presentation at the International Arctic Shipping Seminar. It's held in Moscow. Ministry of Transport organized the seminar. So the topic was revival of the NSR. So it was very interesting. At the time, I learned a lot about NSR. So 2010, established institute at my university. So our institute has been doing research about Arctic shipping since 2010. So, and our institute usually mainly secured fund from Ministry of Oceans and Fishery, Korea. And our institute organize International Arctic Shipping Seminar once a year. And we issue monthly newsletter. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Hon. And we have one more panelist from Norway, Professor Kjell Stokkvik. He's a professor, managing director, Center for High North Logistics, Nord University. Could you please make your self-introduction, Professor Stokkvik?
So, thank you. So my name is Kjell Stokkvik, coming from the Nord University, a Center for High North Logistics, which was a center that was actually funded to work with the Northern Sea Route development back in 2008. The center is now a part of Northern University, but the main focus and the research focus has been on the Arctic logistics and transportation. We also do study when it comes to the green shipping development and how we can improve the sea-land connection in the Arctic logistics as well. We have a team of international researchers, and we've been very much engaged with some of the panelists here today in this joint research. I'm also leading a thematic network from University of Arctic called Arctic Transport and Logistics, where we also do some more joint projects together. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, we learned today we have many experts about Northern Sea Route and also Arctic Sea, but a wide variety background they have. So let's get into my first question to discuss together. As we have already learned from Professor Mo about the general view and history of Northern Sea Route, but getting back to the original theme of this forum of what is the benefit or advantage to use Northern Sea Route for Asian big three countries, China, Korea, Japan. So I would like to ask you all, all of you. So, based on your own expertise, could you please give back your answer to my question? Anyone can start. Okay. Yes, Professor Otsuka first, and Professor Mose second. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, I'd like to start the positive comment on this. So since 2010, I'm dealing with to develop the business scenarios using Northern Sea Route between Japan and Europe. And in 2019, I have joined the trial shipping of container between Finland and Japan, Hokkaido. And it was successfully carried out. And what we have learned is the shorter, the better. It depends on the cargo type, but some cargo types or cargo owners are welcomed the shortening lead time. On the other hand, there's many obstacles to be tackled. For example, the current business model or supply chain model requires many things. And at this moment, the Northern Sea Route shipping service cannot bear totally for those requirements. So what is important if we try to realize the commercial use of the Northern Sea Route, maybe we need to find the effective business scenarios under the current circumstances in the short-term view, mid-term view, and also importantly, the long-term view might be the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. And Professor Mo, could you please?
Yes, well, I think your question, I mean, for users, it boils down to costs. What are the circumstances that could make this route less costly than the alternative routes? And distance and speed is only a component in costs, and it varies from cargo to cargo. So I think it has to boil down to a cost issue. Then there are some additional factors that are not directly related to cost, and that is the risks. How you count risk is more complicated. But if it's less risky to go through the Arctic than to go through the Red Sea, that is a factor, but it's not the only factor. And there is a third factor that comes in and may become more important, and that is emissions. Shorter distance means less emissions. That could become a more important factor also in the future. But costs, is today the decisive issue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Professor Chen, did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Okay, so please go ahead to your comment and answer to my question.
All right. Thanks for your questions. Also, I agree the answer by the Professor Gill and Otsuka and Moyes. My point of view is like that. From several respect, for the trading company, I think a cargo or shipment is moved via Arctic shipping. The transit time will be short. So that is helpful and useful for the trading company to receive the international trading cargo early than by vessel going normal routings. For a shipping company or ship operator side, because of the shortened time of shipping, so the shipping cost will be reduced. For example, reduction of the fuel cost for about 10 days to 12 days. That is a benefit for the shipping companies. The third the benefit, I think, that is new or that is quite common. The Northern Sea Road or North-East Passage could be partly replace the traditionally shipping route via Suez Canal and the Red Seas. So that is most important nowadays. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, okay. Professor Stockvik?
Well, the cost, of course, is important, and the business case for another is also what we heard from my colleagues here. But when I see the three common issues, you are on this side of the sea route, and we have seen now that the engagement from China still very active. Japan and Korea has also been very much active also when building construction and operating the line. While now with the current situation, we see that it's China who is now working along the sea route and take a more active position, while the others are a bit in the waiting. And I think that's one of the issues also that Armo mentioned it in his presentation, that with the current situation, short term, how can this be back to a normal situation and give back the potential that we saw in the beginning? So here is a big issue that we need to overcome if you want to take a step forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Professor Hong, yes, please.
Yeah, we all know the strong point of NSL shipping, but frankly speaking, due to the situation with Ukraine, the interest of Korean shipping company is currently very low in Korea. So shipbuilding company also facing difficulty. But in the long-term perspective, they are interested in reducing shipping cost. So my opinion is that these days we see a lot of geopolitical risk. So war such as war in Ukraine and Israel-Hamas war and Red Sea terror. So therefore, I think under this situation, the issue of stable global supply chain, I think that global supply chain operation is very important and timely agenda that can be discussed among three countries. So at this time, Northern Sea Route may become an alternative route to the Suez canals. So of course, most importantly, negative impact of NSL shipping on the Arctic environment need to be laid. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, all of you. And I should not summarize, but depending on the situation, time, cost, these are the main issue together with reducing the risk. But I'd like to give you the further question about the issues. This is already mentioned by Professor Mo about in the last two slides. What is the major considerations to overcome and also realize the Northern Sea route? But I will repeat this question about what kind of problem we have to overcome, or what kind of consideration we should focus to realize using Northern Sea route to receive the benefit we just discussed, the time and the cost reducing issues. And so anyone can raise their hand, what kind of problems or specifically, considerations we should overcome to realize Northern Sea route. Okay, Professor Otsuka.
Yes, thank you very much for your question. And the benefit has been already discussed. For example, time, cost, emission. And I'd like to add a little more. If we try to tackle with many difficulties regarding the Arctic shipping, maybe we cannot solve these problems by the single nation or single research institute or single company maybe. So, and this could be treated by some other cooperative activities. And this cooperation could be our new network, or might be developed the new relationship between, for example, Asia and European regions. This could be another benefit. There's many difficulties. So tackle with these difficulties together with new networks could be, we can find the new relationship between the several regions.
Professor Otsuka, thank you very much. But can I ask you a further question about the definition of a new network? Because this forum is focusing trilateral cooperation, Korea, China, Japan, three major Asian countries. So what do you think about this trilateral network in addition to the network you proposed, Asia, European countries?
Okay, thank you. So being a single small researcher in the regional area, but I have been dealing with collaborating together with Chinese and Korean researchers, so-called NPAC, North Pacific Arctic Research Communities. And this was established in 2014 in relation to these three countries could become an observer state of the Arctic Council. And so about 9 years ago, nearly 10 years, we have cooperative meeting annually to discuss and exchange ideas and exchange difficulties, what we are facing. And through those discussions, we can discuss about what kind of business model could be feasible, or what is the difficulties together. So China and Japan and Korea, we have maybe common difficulties. And also we have, but each country has its own interest and backgrounds. And so sharing those ideas could be gradually developing and feasible discussion and network between three countries. And also here, the Kiev and Arid are also, we have been discussing many years about the feasibility or possibility of Northern Sea route. And sometimes it might be the optimistic, but sometimes pessimistic. And this discussion could make some new ideas for both of us.
Thank you very much, Professor Otsuka. Professor Otsuka's comment or answer to my question is really suggestive, because as we all know, the tension between two countries, for example, Japan and China, and Japan and Korea and China exist. We should admit about that. But through the consideration of Northern Sea route for the benefit of three countries, we can find some solutions to lose these bilateral tensions. This is a really suggestive and very important issues. So this, my question, following the answer of what Professor Otsuka mentioned, should be given to Professor Chen and Professor Hon. So Professor Hon, could you give us your comment to the original question? What is the difficulties? What is the problem? What is the consideration? Or other comment, to what Professor Otsuka mentioned?
I'd like to, before starting my comments on trilateral cooperation, let me mention a few issues. I'd like to mention first, there is perception, the difference of perception regarding Arctic shipping route. Western countries, foreign shipping companies want to utilize NSL as the shortest international shipping route between Asia and Europe. But Russian government, they consider NSL as shipping route to transport their hydrocarbon resources to Asian and European market. So I think it's different view. So let me mention a few cases. In 2019, September 2019, at the time I attended NSL public council meeting as a member. So at the time, I remember, I want to mention two things about transit and harbor port. I asked a question to Rosatom and Ministry of Transport. According to their NSL development plan, their target transit volume was 1 million ton. So I think it's too small. So why transit volume is too small? So government official, Minister of Trust, he put it very conservatively. But this day, their target changed. Transit volume will be 30 million ton. in 2030. It's too large gap. So I feel the difference of transit concept. And second one, transshipment or logistics hub. One participant from European shipping company, he asked question, which other foreign port other than Russian port can be play a role as a transshipment port or main port. He asked, but Mr. Alexei Liachov, president of Rosatom, he answered, it's almost impossible. It's difficult to designate foreign ports as a main transshipment port, he said. So why I mentioned about that story, we need to know exact Russian policy. We need to know how they think. We need to know their concrete actual plan or their implementation. So we need to monitor their all the plans, because NSL is under the management of the Russian government. So we need to objectively, we need to all the time study to their plan. And one more thing. So before talking about details of cooperation, I'd like to suggest it's important first establish regular dialogue channel between Korea, Japan, and China in order to discuss joint cooperation on the NSL. For example, it would be a good idea to establish and operate a Northern Sea Route consultative group between 3 countries. Alternatively, since there is already a channel for Korea, Japan, and China, ministerial conference on transport and logistics. So it would be a good idea to consider it as a trilateral cooperation agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will ask you next because Professor Chen is has been waiting. So Professor Chen, could you please give your comment from the standpoint of Chinese side, please?
Okay, thank you, Sakakusis. For your second question, that is a very good question and interested. Technically speaking, the key problems for Arctic shipping is ice conditions still. Nowadays, we have for season shipping possibility was 3 months per year for the normal cargo vessel with Finnish Swedish system 1A ice class the levels. As we mentioned in the program question 1, there are much benefit with Arctic shipping. So what we should do is to overcome the problems or difficulty with ice situation. What these ones, I think we should do in 2 directions. One is that area for Northeast Passage is quite close to Russia border. So Russia policy is quite important, as mentioned by Professor Hong already. The second direction is we have to have the heavy ice break as escaped the vessels in front of the cargo vessel. So that is field or 3 countries, CJK, could cooperate to each others. And second possible cooperation is regarding the management of vessel operating. Nowadays, we 3 countries, CJK, are doing separately, like the normal shipping service via Suez. But Arctic shipping service should be quite special. Even though it's workable and available, it's still very much special. So that if possible, we could consider to set up the joint vessel fleet sailing between Far East and Northern Atlantic. So it should be discussed a lot between the CJKs. So I called this is, we could think about that the Pacific group from the Far East side. The third one is also this solution need very much support from the Atlantic side. So I say that it's Atlantic group, including the European countries and the US and Canada. But today we are focusing on the Pacific side. So we not only to have the joint vessel fleet, also we should choose the harbor, Pacific side harbors for Arctic shipping service. The big and heavy icebreak cargo vessels sailing between the Pacific harbor and the Atlantic harbor. Then from harbors to each country, China, Japan, Korea, so managed and operated by the each country separately. So for Operation 3, I think today is a situation around the Northwest Passage is not the very good device or LESCO or healthcare. Those are still far from the demand. Something is even very poor. So on these issues, we could CJK could discuss what we could do together. Of course, it's still needed to discuss with the Russia side because the location or land is inside the Russia border. The third issues, I think the information service nowadays is just okay, but not very satisfied by the vessel captain. So in this side, I think the CJK could do close for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chen, for your fascinating proposals and the issues which need to be well considered. Thank you very much. And Professor Mo, thank you for waiting for your answer.
Well, your questions are quite complicated but very important. I'll just like to add on this prospects, what kind of cooperation do and what can they focus on? As I see it, there are many issues of a sort of technical, practical character that needs to be resolved and which have to do with the development of navigational infrastructure, hydrography, many things that cost a lot of money. And one could perhaps think, if we could at least think further ahead, let's assume that international tensions are going down, that we have a more stable situation. And at some point, CJK as potential big users could come up with some sort of suggestion for financing the necessary investments in the Northern Sea route to make it more feasible. This is very speculative, of course. But of course, these three countries together have a lot of clout. All this depends on what goes on inside Russia. It has always to be considered what kind of acceptance such proposals would have in Russia. At the moment, I think they will not be very receptive, but that could change. And so it's very worth exploring the technicalities and understanding what are the financial requirements. We know that Russia gave some sort of opening to cooperation with China last year on the Northern Sea route, which they have not done before. What that really means in practical terms, we don't know, but certainly, as I see it, Russia would need investments to make the sea route more attractive.
Thank you. Thank you. Such a very important point you made. And Professor Stockvik raised your hand. So could you please give your comment to my first question or a second question, whichever you like? Yes.
Well, it's like Ariel, some recommendation I think that you can do from this side, from CJK, when it comes to cooperation, is also to look at, you know, the regulations and what type of ships do you really want to send over through the Northern Sea route. You are a shipbuilding nations in this side. This is the part of the world that we are buying our ships from Norway, who sits in the other side. And then again, the safety, you know, rescue cooperation if something goes wrong. You don't want to have old ships and take high risks up here. So if those three countries say design some regulations on their own, or their own sanctioning of ships, that can improve the safety and the quality, that's something that you can work on, as far as I can see. So thank you.
Thank you very much. As so far we can see the cooperation, collaboration among three countries are very key issues to realize less cost, less time, full safety, and to clear the Russian regulations. These are the very important issues we have to explore. And I want to add one more question about insurance issues. Do you have any comment or idea about the cost? Because insurance issues is, of course, included in a cost issues. But, you know, for example, in an extreme proposal to have trilateral cooperative insurance should work or not realistic. These are the questions about insurance issues. Do you have any comment about this question? Professor Chen, because you are COSCO people, so you have any comment on these issues?
Yeah, thank you, Sakakus. For the shipping company, everybody know that insurance is quite important for the company's benefits. But regarding the Arctic shipping issues, any special for the insurance issues? I would say I not very familiar with this, or didn't learn a lot. So I think I prefer to listen the idea from the other expert and the professors.
Okay, thank you, Professor Chen. Anyone who can make? Okay, please, Professor Mo.
I think that is not. I think it is in fact a good idea, but to have a common insurance scheme, you would also need to have common certification, inspection. You would have to sort of have a common understanding of risk, and so it would entail a lot of cooperation to get there. But well, it's not unthinkable. On the other hand, if you get as far as that, you know, then you have international shipping, insurance companies that would obviously be interested in that market. As of now, because of sanctions, many insurance companies have withdrawn. But if you are thinking into the future, if this becomes a more normal part of international shipping, well, these insurance companies are probably ready to work there. But a new insurance scheme between three such big potential users is also conceivable. It's also conceivable.
Thank you very much for your positive answer. In addition to the proposal by Professor Chen, he proposed the management and port control, and also the rule understanding of Russian regulation must be done and shared with 3 countries. And these are the issues to accelerate. You know, now only China among 3 countries are using Northern Sea Route in reality, but Korea and Japan can, you know, follow if we can construct these kind of framework, you know, to support each other and to share each other and reduce the cost. So this is my idea. Professor Hunt, could you please give your comment? Of course, I can take your negative comment, whatever.
I'm not familiar with insurance premium, but I know one thing. I think ice-breaking escort service, ice-breaking capability of Russia is a very key factor for safe navigation. So I think it would be good to have a joint venture between Russia and Western company or insurers to operate Arctic insurance together. And one more thing, I think there are not enough accident cases in the Arctic. You don't know not enough information. So we need to study more the case study of accident in Arctic Sea. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Otsuka.
Thank you. So I'd like to add another point of view about the insurance issues. So if we expect the more safe and realistic and reasonable insurance system, we need to examine the navigational risks in the Arctic waters more precisely or more correctly. So in that regards, the much more research works should be done to realize the more safe Arctic shipping.
Thank you. Thank you very much. No? Okay, all right. So let's get into my final question. That is the Northern Sea Route for the future use. Because today I can make an announcement. Our chairman, Mr. Sasakawa, he made a great success to climb up to the Kilimanjaro, you know. I think that news came from Kilimanjaro the day before yesterday. And the message from him is we must challenge, we must attack whatever, you know, we can set. So he did it at the age of 84 years old. And that is an amazing success. But bringing back the problem into the Northern Sea route, we must have some, future challenge, future attack fully utilized, and also peacemaking, not only among 3 countries, but also including Norway, of course, and including all other countries. So do you have any comment or your suggestion for the future for the Northern Sea route? If this is a tough question, I can suggest you from the question in online. One question is almost all usage of Northern Sea route for East Asian countries carrying the energy resources, specifically LNG. So is there any other potential usage or carrying people or whatever for the future purpose? Okay, please.
Yes, there are other possibilities, but in volume terms, oil and gas is extremely dominant. Russia also has quite big coal projects coming on stream. Can be questioned if they will develop as much as thought, but that would also be substantial. But as you probably all realize, the future of hydrocarbons from the Arctic is not only becoming more uncertain because of the sanctions, but also because of the energy transition. The whole of the northern part of Russia is quite rich in minerals, various minerals, rare earth minerals, but these projects are underdeveloped. So it goes back to the question, who will invest long-term in resource development in Russia? So it also comes back to the conditions for investments in Russia for the long term. So that is the problem. The resources are there, but the benefits for the investors are not so clear.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comment? Yes, please. Professor Otsuka. Yes.
Once again, if I draw big pictures, of course, the fish, frozen fish and whale meat are already transported by transit voyages, however, and iron ore and coal as well. But there might be a potential for finished car transportation between Europe and Asia. And also, in the big picture, if the world becomes to use the hydrogen power or hydrogen, then hydrogen might be one of the newcomer in the possibility if I draw a very, very big picture.
Thank you. This is important point. Professor? Yeah,
well, just to add to that scenarios when it comes to the future, we have done a lot of type of cargo scenarios, and the interesting part is that this part of the world is also a big market for us when it comes to fish. So can we in the future overcome technology, use the sea route to also cool down and transport fresh fish, avoid all the aviation transport we're doing today? That would be a future potential as we see it from the Norwegian side. Today, yeah, salt, frozen fish, but fresh. Very interesting scenario. And again, yeah, we see in the Arctic there is going to be very much focused on mineral resources, energy, as Arian mentioned, but also the food up here is important for the rest of the world. Fish could also be other type of Arctic food, like the reindeer we talked about some other days here and discussed. So we see the potential of using the route to not only moving cargo out of the region, but also east-west in the future has the potential. So yeah, in the future, yes, long term.
Thank you, thank you. And Professor Hon, yes, please.
I'd like to mention about cargo base and cargo transportation. Last year, transit cargo volume was 2 million tons. However, most of the Russian resources were exported to China. So at the time, there was no international transit cargo. So that's a problem. But these days, due to Western sanctions, Russian government decided redirect their cargo transportation through NSL to Asian market. So I feel that they are interested in securing cargo base. 3 years ago, they asked me to make a presentation about how to secure cargo base from Asian first big market. At the time, but I was asked, but they didn't ask again, so I forgot. So their interest is cargo base, how to secure cargo base. But for example, this year, their target cargo volume was 80 million ton, but I think that target cannot be attainable. Because, for example, Vostok oil project, Rosneft, they plan to produce, they can transport about 30 million tons of oil through NSL, but problem, they cannot secure ice class vessel. As I know, 21 ice class vessel had to be ready, but they didn't. As far as I know, they didn't secure enough vessels. So this year's cargo volume cannot be attainable. So I'd like to mention about cargo base. We can secure cargo base. There are a lot of trading ports in Asian market, so we can cooperate each other. So I think today's topic was very timely, and so we can make some tangible result from this kind of meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Professor Chen, you have any comment for the Northern Sea route in the future?
Yeah, a few words to be additionally idea. Nowadays, the Arctic shipping routes is basically available for the 3 kind of cargo vessel: bulk cargo vessel, and energy, including crude oil and LNG carrier, energy carrier. And the third one is a multi-purpose cargo vessel or general cargo vessel. For the future, if the available shipping time will be extended for the long, then that is quite okay for 3 kind of cargo vessel. Actually, until now, the 4th kind of cargo vessel, the container vessel, is not very suitable going via Arctic Ocean. Some people maybe said last year Chinese new shipping, that is a container vessel, went to Arctic Ocean. Yes, that was. but that is not a real the container liner service. When we are talking about the liner service, the routing, the port, the schedule should be fixed for some time. For example, 1 year or something like that. We could feel the operating situation with container shipping service. So the new shipping just offer the season container shipping service via Arctic Ocean. That couldn't say fully the liner service. So when the available time is enlarged or extended, the container shipping service is like a service mark for the Arctic shipping. In addition, the Arctic cruise vessel or expedition cruise vessel, that is also like indicate of Arctic shipping service, or other for the cargo, or the cruise vessel is for the passengers. The third possibility, we are looking for the fishing vessels. That is under discussion, I think. So that could be possible for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chen. So so far we have learned lots of potential usage for the future if the Arctic Sea is open, and hopefully reduction of the sanction and mutual understanding among Russian rules and potential users countries. Thank you very much, all the panelists, to answer to my questions. Now the floor is open in Japanese and in English. Whatever language is okay to take from you, and please don't hesitate your honest question, because I'm going to pick up some question online. So while I'm asking the question from online, and then please think about your honest and not necessarily good question, but a simple question will be all right. So I will start from the question from online. The multiple question given by anonymous names, but what about northeastern route, as Professor Mo suggested in the first couple of slides, instead of Russian side, to explore and the potential usage of this route. Anyone can answer to that question? Is it possible, or is it useful, or is it does it have any benefit rather than using so-called Northern Sea route?
Well, I think the first the trans-Arctic corridor has some merits because the Northern Sea route is a defined area, and it has to do with the provisions of the law of the sea that gives the coastal state the right to regulate shipping in its economic zone due to environmental concerns. But the rules are specific, should not be discriminatory. The general rule in international shipping is free transit. We have to remember that. But in ice-infested areas, there are specific rules. So that is the reason why the Northern Sea route has a special regime. In terms of commercial operations, these borders are in a way not maybe the most natural ones. So this idea of an Arctic corridor extending to Kamchatka and to Murmansk makes sense, because if you talk about reloading, transferring of goods from one vessel to another, these harbors have more significance. But the problem is that you have different regulatory rules in the sea route area and outside. And extending the sea route rules outside the present limitation would create enormous international resistance. I can be sure about that. But from a commercial point of view, if you think ahead about possibilities of establishing a sort of container service or a more regular service, it makes sense to look at the longer area than the sea route. Yes.
Thank you very much. I hope the multiple questioners given this question can receive the message from Professor Mo. Is there any other answer or comment for this question on northeastern route potential? Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Just Professor Mo mentioned about environmental issues. The question is it a trade-off for the, in terms of environment, to use, not to use conventional, traditional passage through Suez Canal, to use Northern Sea Route in terms of environment? That means, to save fuel time by using Northern Sea Route, but at the same time giving some impact or destroying the environment in Arctic Sea. This is a question given also by Anonymous. Is it true, or any other comment on this environmental trade-off issues? Yeah, please, Professor Otsuka.
Okay, thank you for the question. And this question is not only for the Arctic issues, but also the Pacific, Atlantic, any other oceans. We need to face the same question if we use the sea route. And as well as not only sea route, but also the aviation route as well. And the International Maritime Organization, IMO, has long been tackled with the environmental protection in relation to the shipping issues, I suppose. I'm not the expert, but in the Arctic issues, I'm studying about the IMO's activities as well. For example, IMO has already banned the usage of the heavy fuel oils in the Arctic waters, for example. And also, being the stakeholder or user of the Arctic Sea Route and any other, as well as any other shipping route, we might have the responsibility against the effect of the natural environment. And the most large concern at this moment in the Arctic might be the underwater noise from the shipping activities. And also the Arctic Council's working group is tackling with these issues together with the environmental NGOs and the shipping companies or research experts and so on and so on. But unfortunately, those activities are terminated because of the COVID-19 and also the Russian invasion to Ukraine. So I really hope to resume those activities again.
Thank you very much. Now, floor is completely open. どなたでもどんな
Anyone, any question would be welcome. This is such a great opportunity to gather such world-renowned experts, and therefore, whatever your question would be, please. If you have any questions, please state your name and affiliation.
Thank you so much. My name is Atsushi Okudera from Asahi Shimbun, the Japanese newspaper. Actually, I totally understand the commercial viewpoint. There is many possibility in the future, including the passage, including the oil and fish, any food or something like that. But at the same time, we need to think about the different viewpoint, like political, geopolitical viewpoint. As we all know, after the Crimea crisis, 2014, and the Ukraine crisis in 2022, many European countries lifted they put the sanction, and also they had already reduced the import of the Russia and natural gas from the Russia. Which is not the commercial viewpoint. It's a kind of the political or geopolitical things. So if we think about the for commercial company, I think there's a huge risk to pursue, invest the port, harbor, or any big vessel. So do you think it is realistic for the commercial company in Japan and the South Korea? Maybe the China is a kind of different position. But is it possible or is it realistic for these countries, an Asian country, to pursue these the northern route without Russian coordination, Or if we pursue, do you think we need to provide some kind of benefit to the Russia? If so, it's a kind of, the very complicated. We're going to face the different difficult problem at the same time. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Such a important question. I think everyone wants to ask this critical question. Thank you very much. So, anyone can? Okay, Professor Mo.
Well, you summed it up quite nicely. In my opinion, to two major questions here. Risk from the point of view of investors, and the risk is quite high, which is the reason why I think that the projected development of resources in the Russian Arctic will not take place. There are direct sanctions, but there are also risk of dealing with Russia. So we don't see any haste in, for instance, from China in investing, at least at the top for the time being. But the other part of the question is extremely important to remember, and that's what I've also been trying to say, that you have to deal with Russia, and if Russia is going to be interested, it must have some benefits. So that comes down to what are the conditions, what are the outlook, what is the possible profits. So that is essential. And I think in Russia there has been a reconsideration of the outlook for earnings from international transits. So investors need to convince the Russians that this is something that is attractive for Russia in the longer term. That's one important condition. But they have to think about the profits from themselves too. So that is the first condition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is a very good conversation. Professor Stockbeek, I think you have another comment for this question or answer to this question.
I just want to add that we have seen as well as following development that there is not only the sanction, but there is a lot of self-sanctioning among the commercial interests here, because you are afraid to destroy your other markets you're operating in by going into this direction. So they are sitting, like Professor Mo said, they are in the waiting pattern to see how this develops. So, thank you.
Thank you. では他に、どんな
Thank you very much. So we'd like to take another question. Whatever you are going to ask would be welcome. Thank you very much. Well, I'm interested in the search and rescue or the related agreement in the Arctic Sea. I just Googled and searched on the internet, and I think the Arctic area have been divided up, so to speak, for search and rescue operations. But I think the United States and Russia are capable enough to conduct search and rescue operations in such a vast the area. But would you please shed light on this? Please attend to yourself. My name is Mukai. I'm a member of the Association of the Military Issue Research.
Please.
What you are referring to is the agreement that was negotiated under the auspices of the Arctic Council Search and Rescue Agreement. And in that agreement, the Arctic was divided in sectors where the respective Arctic coastal states have a responsibility for rescue. And the idea was that also to have a lot of exercises on the sort of transfer of rescue capacities between the sectors. As of today, there has not been any real situation where this agreement has been tested in practice. But there have been tabletop exercises to check out how rescue can be coordinated across sectors. Of course, these days, because of the present crisis international, these activities is on a low level. But the agreement is in force. And it's just like you say, the Arctic, the responsibility has been divided between the Arctic countries. So it was considered a big progress in international Arctic cooperation when this agreement was signed almost 10 years ago.
よろしいですか。じゃあよろしくお願いします。
Does that answer the question? Yes, and the next question, please. My name is Nakagawa from Nagoya City University. My question is related to China. China's the One Belt, One Road project. I think the Arctic logistics. What is the position of the China concerning the Arctic logistics as part of the One Belt, One Road project?
About the relationship, One Belt, One Road to the Northern Sea route. Professor Chen, could you please give any answer or your view for this question?
All right. Thank you for the questions. In China, once they mentioned that Arctic shipping is part of the one belt, one road, but it's not a bigger part because the other shipping routing is workable for a whole year, and also without so much technical problems. The Arctic Ocean is seizing shipping possibilities, so it's not a bigger one. But yes, it's part of one build and one load. Thank you.
よろしいですか。もう一つ二つ。
Next question, please. So I think we have the experts from the Professor Hong. So yeah, this is a great opportunity for you. Yes, please.
Me up for raising question. I'm Kota Ueki from JTC Corporation, the company that constructed Yamara Energy plant in the Arctic. So my question is maybe a bit complicated and a bit annoying to you. However, let me raise my question. So as far as I'm concerned, that this kind of question, talking about the potential risk or potential benefit of using NSR, has been done since quite a long time ago. So, however, the physical activity, Russia has the vision of ramping up the cargo volume, which will be transited, and also destination shipping for in the NSR. And also they constructed a nuclear icebreaker. They have also planned to increase the number of icebreaker. However, on the other hand, that the cargo volume for international transit is still low. So in consideration of the prospect for the future, or in order for us to move to the next step of this kind of discussion, so what kind of events or what kind of chance do you think could be a potential reason for ramping up the international transit in NSR?
Thank you for your question. Anyone? Okay, yep. Yeah. Professor Otsuka will answer, yes.
Thank you very much, Ueki-san, and happy to see you again here. Regarding the important point view of yours, the next step of the future transit activities under the current situations. Under the current situation, the short-term perspective is the pessimistic. However, the possibilities, next stage of the possibilities, maybe as I said before, if we draw big pictures, and we can find some new possibilities. But together with that, we also realize the many problems to be overcome. So the discussion about those issues would be the important for us at this moment. And for example, the Kier-san mentioned the green shipping, you said, like that. Under that the perspectives, maybe we need to do much more effort to realize that. But the further of those activities, then we can find some new other possibilities if we have the positive perspectives. So I'm not sure I can answer your question, but that's all from myself.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'll take the real last question from Professor Uto.
Uto is my name. I'm from Hokkaido University. The Professor Mo mentioned in his presentation that we need a long-term perspective in dealing with this topic, and I agree. Therefore, from that point of view, I have a following question. About 30 years ago, there was a project called the INSLOP under the auspices of this foundation, and back then nobody expected that the ice would be reduced to this great the extent, and therefore back then I was involved in the development of the heavy icebreaker to see whether that was feasible or not. Situation has drastically changed, and what about the future? It has to do with the natural environment, and therefore no one can come up with the projection by any level of certainty. But the IMO already declared that the greenhouse gas emission should be reduced to 0. That means and that will be 2050. So it's less than 30 years from now, and therefore it has to change the shipbuilding as well. And back then, by then, what will be the role of NSR? When the situation has drastically changed by then. So if you can tell us about your views.
Yes, please.
Well, one possibility which has been discussed by many researchers already is that trans-Arctic shipping could become feasible at least parts of the year, straight across the Arctic. There are many complications there because of the distances, rescue capability, and so on. But it is likely, and that was what also I hinted to at the end of my presentation, that with the less ice, it will be feasible also to go, if not across the Arctic, then you can go further north, again outside the limits of the Northern Sea route, which again means that sort of the Russia component becomes less. Of course, Russia is very much against that. They say that no, you can never go north of the Arctic. That's irresponsible to go north of the Northern Sea route. But as you just correctly said, the climate development has been extremely dramatic already, and we should be very sort of careful about guessing exactly what it will be in 25 years' time. So I think it will have impact on the shipping lanes that are accessible.
Thank you very much. Although tons of questions are given online, but we have to close this panel discussion session with lots of discussion and also question and answer. And so I'm sorry for the question given in online, but we'll try to pick up and give some answer later on by online. Then before closing this panel discussion, could you please clap up and for all the effort, and I thank you so much, including Professor Chen, and so we're going to close this panel discussion session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for staying with us until the end of the program. The importance of the Northern Sea routes, its potential as well as problems and challenges have been highlighted by the presentations and discussions today. As the participant from Asahi Shimbun raised in their question, there are still concerns about Russia. How can we go about the country and the risks that will be involved? For Sasakawa Peace Foundation, dialogue with Russia is a major mission now, because, as pointed out today, there are many uncertainties. We could get around these uncertainties as risks, but if we could utilize fully and safely the Northern Sea route, taking environmental impacts into consideration, then, as I said at the beginning, that would contribute to addressing global environmental issues and paving ways to addressing energy issues. Initiating dialogue with Russia and getting it on the track is a difficult but significant mission serving world peace. So we, Sasakawa Peace Foundation, the Ocean Policy Research Institute, and other groups of the foundation will continue our dialogue with Russia to understand better each other, because as Professor Mo said and many other speakers said, if rules are unclear or if rules change, that would be a risk. But if rules are clear and you can act before they are changed, or you can negotiate with each other, if you can make such a situation, you'd be able to pave the way forward. So we, Sasakawa Peace Foundation, will go together with you step by step. Unfriendly comments, remarks abound these days, but we will continue to work so that things will change for the better, little by little. We appreciate receiving frank opinions, critical views, and advice from you as input to our endeavor. We are grateful for your ongoing support. In conclusion, I express once again my sincere thanks to the esteemed panelists, the keynote speaker, Professor Mo, and the participants who are in this room and online for the successful forum today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This concludes 197th Ocean Forum. We are asking for your feedback. We receive your response by 23:59. So please use the QR code to send your responses or feedback. Next month on 7th, there is going to be ECOP by Japan Symposium, followed by the ALPS, the Treated Water Symposium on 8th as well. We invite you to join us there at the symposium as well. Once again, thank you very much for your participation.